mind going to a female high security prison. It's fine.
Yeah, I bet she probably didn't even care. So we gotta move on. It's America's Independence Day this weekend, and like most Americans, we're gonna be fat, lazy, and entitled, and do a shorter show with an interview.
I'm on vacation from real work. I don't know why I'm doing this.
Wackley has to purchase sparklers and black snakes. We don't have time to podcast, so I'm gonna fill the time with an interview I did last night with a YouTube sensation, one of the first viral YouTube stars, Mr. Pregnant.
Nice.
Do you remember this guy?
Yeah.
A weird dude. He's a weird guy.
YouTube talking heads, just like in front of the camera, pure comedy.
But went viral. It was like, so
he's not out there like fucking hitting grandmas in the head and being like, check this prank out. I got 1 million likes.
Dumping milk all over himself in the supermarket. No, this guy, what he would do, he's that big fat black guy with like man tits, and he would like, play with his man boobs and sing songs. Just directly into a camera. And back then, no one had that. The internet was, there were definitely the nether regions of the internet with all the weird things, but no one really, it wasn't at the forefront. So along comes this fat black guy, shirtless, with man boobs, singing, Big Girls Don't Cry with like snaggle teeth. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, oh my God, this is the weirdest thing. This is the internet. This is the inner tubes. And Reddit, has a big boner over it. And so then this guy became famous. Okay. I think the guy's hilarious. He was one of the first YouTube stars. I don't know if he capitalized off his fame from YouTube.
He's still trying to, it sounds like.
Well, maybe, but now he's kind of reinventing his character. Like he's kind of deviating from the Mr. Pregnant
Always
thing.
A risky proposition. Take it from us. Do the same thing over and over and over again. That's the best way to succeed.
Think about us. Like, remember we were trying to do the... we were turning over and doing like the celebrity news, the news.
Yeah, right.
Remember that?
That didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out. I don't think you could just change it. People want one thing, and they got it day in, day out.
Right.
Whereas this guy,
stick with what works.
This guy has multiple characters, multiple...
Why do you think there's like 14 different Batman movies? Why do you think they're making another Rocky movie?
Another Spider-Man origin story.
There you go.
Because it works.
Do you think these big, successful Hollywood conglomerates don't know what they're doing? Of course they know what they're doing. They have scientists working on it. Do the same thing over and over.
Demographic research. You guys want the same thing.
You think that Ant-Man movie is going to succeed? No, it's going to bomb because nobody cares about a different fucking insect-based superhero.
Just put Thor, Hulk, and Captain America and Iron Man in
Superman,
a movie.
Batman.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, the standards. But anyway.
Wonder Woman will do well because everybody is going to be jacking off.
Well, you need a female superhero, too.
Yeah, with their tits out.
Anyway, let's get on to this interview here with Mr. Pregnant. If you live in the LA area, I totally recommend checking it out. His comedy is it's uncomfortable, but it's very funny. It's amusing. Before we get to that, here's a word from our sponsor.
It's Butt Plug Month on AdamandEve.com. Show that you still care by bringing something new into the bedroom. And by something new, I mean a butt plug. Because if you order right now and use coupon code DIDDLE, you get 50% off your first item, a gift so sensual I can't even tell you about it on this podcast that talks about murder and bukkake, and on top of all of that, free shipping. Support Sick and Wrong by supporting our sponsor, AdamandEve.com, and making a purchase with coupon code DIDDLE. That's DIDDLE.
Mr. Pregnant, Steve Simon here calling from Sick and Wrong. How's it going?
It is going magnificent.
Hey, thanks for being on the show tonight, especially with short notice here.
Thank you for having me.
So, I hope you don't mind me calling you Mr. Pregnant, because that's kind of where I was introduced to you. But I know you've been recently going by your birth name here. I'm actually going to have a little trouble pronouncing this. Hope I don't butcher it here. Addleston Fitzgerald Holder the First?
Well, it's Attelston. Americans have a different sort of cadence. They say Addleston, but it is Attelston Fitzgerald Holder the First. That's my real name. Mr. Pregnant is just an online alias.
It's your online moniker. Did you officially retire the Mr. Pregnant moniker or alias?
No. I mean, I am an individual of many dimensions. So I just transcend into different ideas or concepts. So Mr. Pregnant is just another phase. So maybe I'll get back to it, but, there's far more interesting things I could do in the entertainment industry other than Mr. Pregnant. Ironically, it is because of Mr. Pregnant that kind of propelled me into fame. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, most I know you have a multiplicity of talents here: comedian, writer, musician. But most people know you from YouTube because you were one of the first viral sensations.
Yeah, I'm actually one. If I'll go as far as say, I'm not being conceited, I am the actual prototype of taking prank or humor outside. I mean, during the embryonic stages of YouTube, the platform was a user-driven medium. Mm-hmm. So I was one of the persons in the early stages who went outside with a pot and teeth and started doing pranks. If you proceed back to 2005 or 2006, possibly after 4 or 5 months, YouTube launched, when the most viewed video of the day was 5,000 views, and the most commented video of the day was around 250 comments. You would see that I had prank calls in those days. 2006, I had prank calls. I was already outside saying, Mr. Pregnant is outside.
That's the thing. It's like you've, I guess, sort of trademarked this character, and that's how people recognize you. How did it start? Let me just refresh people out there. You might remember this character. You're like a kind of a big, overweight guy. With man boobs. I know you had a video called Man Boobs, but yet you'd wear kind of like snaggle teeth and kind of do comedy, basically sing songs. What was the Big Girls Don't Cry was probably one of the biggest videos, right?
Yeah.
So this was a character that you created. What was your inspiration? How did this start? It's rather bizarre, especially at the time. I mean, how many characters were really on YouTube then?
Well, yeah. Well, you remember, if you proceed back to Lonely Girl 15, which was a complete script.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Right, so that took away the whole idea of ingenuity online, and nothing we see from that point on was perceived as real because there was always a hidden agenda. In my case, there's a lot of synchronicity kind of deriving from a lot of inadvertent scenarios, because we're in a pot, we're in a teeth. None of these things was pre-planned. It's not something I preconceived. I didn't sit down with a panel of writers and let's put this concept, let's materialize this idea. But as time went on, the pot took on all these metaphorical kind of connotations, where I'll be on the streets and someone will attribute the literal interpretation of the word pot to the metaphorical interpretation of marijuana. So, and it's a kind of synchronistic scenario that really worked out well, because, why would a guy walk up to a bunch of police officers in New York City on Times Square with a panty and bra? Maybe the pot does have some signification. It's attributed to high on pot. So there's a lot of inadvertent scenario which kind of really shows a sign of geniusness, but it wasn't something that was preconceived. It was just something that just occurred naturally.
So this idea, this character, this Mr. Pregnant character just occurred just one day, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna videotape myself and post it to YouTube. Why YouTube? Why did you choose that vehicle?
Well, remember, I was making videos long before YouTube existed, long before the Google's acquisition of YouTube for 1 point something billion in 2006, I believe, was acquisition. Google wasn't the first. They wasn't the archetype of a video sharing website, because you had sites like eBomb World and a few others. Back, right? So Google had something called a video uploader, a bulk uploader. So by the time YouTube made its debut, I already had thousands and thousands and thousands of videos on Google, because Google had a bulk uploader. So by the time YouTube made its inception, it was just a matter of me transitioning from platform to platform, and me already being tech savvy. We're always in tune to what's happening in the field of technology. So we always on top of the game, the new thing out. And in those eras, there was no such thing as social media. Was just a figment of human imagination. In those days, you had
MySpace.
Huh?
There was MySpace was around back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but the real social mediums in those era was primarily Yahoo chat rooms, Yahoo user chat, ICQ chat. So those were kind of the primary medium for social interaction online. So I kind of jumped on the bandwagon in the early stages. Now, again, Mr. Pregnant, it appears to be something that is preconceived, but it's a gradual process. Because if you look at the early stages, I have the bulgy eyes, but there's no pot. Right? Then I have a pot, but there's no fake teeth. And then a year later, I'm shaking the tits. So it's
so it went in stages. It developed. It graduated into the tits and the teeth.
Yeah, it's kind of like a supernova, an exploding star. It could just spiral into a myriad of directions, and it's just one of those things where it just takes its natural course.
And it blew up too. I mean, how long did it take before it became like a viral success? Like when you were getting a few million hits on your videos, how long did this take? This process.
Well, there's two sort of popularity you gain from viral videos. Now, this only applies back to that particular era. In this contemporary time, it's a whole different dynamics. One was indirect popularity, where I gained attention by, let's say, MTV, because I've been on MTV 7 times. I've been on VH1, been on Comedy Central, I've been on America's Got Talent. So these opportunities was a sort of indirect way to build an online fan base. And then you have the natural views accumulated from people looking at my videos directly. So there were two kind of platforms in which I gained popularity. One was media, and one was just the virtual form of the internet period.
So you put out this video. So do you think it was, did it take a couple months for it to build momentum? Because, I'm sure VH1 and America's Got Talent came from the fact that you were already on, you're popular on YouTube. You're a viral success.
Yeah. I think statistically, 99.9% of the reasons I get opportunity with networks is because the material has a high level of surrealism to it, right? You see that kind of incongruity, that kind of outrageous kind of stuff. Media tends to like that stuff because for some strange reason, it tends to drive traffic, advertisements, and that causes revenue. So it seems like that's the sort of thing they love. They want to see a big 300-pound man stuck in his pits. You see, satire and irony seem to be very, very prevalent in the media when it comes to searching for online video. They search for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but do you think they realize the irony, or are they just looking at like, here's a fat guy with shaking his boobs? Is that what they're looking at?
Yeah, because there's two interpretations. One is the literal surface value, and then there's the in-depth undertone. So
exactly.
You have a small fraction of society who will sit and watch one of my video, and they will dissect the dramatic, situational, tragic, verbal, and even Socratic irony, or different forms of satire like Juvenilean, Minipian, and Horatian. So there's a lot of figurative devices in language that you will see in my material. But those things are more exclusive to a certain fraction of society, academia, who's into that sort of stuff. But for the public, it's sort of like a Mr. Bean. Like you watch Charlie Chaplin and you see a kind of slapstick, but there's a deep-seated political undertone in Charlie Chaplin material.
That most people don't realize. Like that's why when I watched your videos, I remember being like, it's very Kaufman, like Andy Kaufman-esque to me. Like watching this is like something that, like, if Andy Kaufman was alive this day and age, I imagine he would be using YouTube to the same aim, like the same objective.
I think the only reason that I am, it is because you cannot put what you do into perspective, and I am kind of within that same sort of context, where you can put it into context, so you kind of categorize it in that Andy Kaufman-ish category where it is, you can't categorize it. The problem here is the high level of ambiguity. When human beings psychologically have an issue with ambiguity, if you can't put things into perspective, it's discomforting. So I'm kind of in that predicament where you can't put me into perspective. You can't say if I'm insane, you can't say if I'm intelligent, you can't say if I'm mentally unstable, or you can't say if I'm a genius. And I'm comfortable with that I'm comfortable with that sort of ambiguity.
Yeah, no, I think that's a distinction, actually, because right there, what that does is it separates you from just the run-of-the-mill comedy that's out there. I guess I remember watching your videos. It was like 10 years ago at this point. But I remember watching your videos back then. But then, recently I came across a newer video, and I was looking at it, and I noticed that this video, you're no longer using teeth. You didn't even go by the Mr. Pregnant alias. So I was wondering, like, how difficult is it to reinvent yourself after you've established yourself as an internet personality? Like, are you facing difficulty trying to reinvent yourself in the public eye when everybody knows you as Mr. Pregnant?
Well, yes. You remember I lost a West Indian account where I already accumulated over 10 million views, right, because of copyright infringement or third-party legal issues. So I was kind of prevalently known as having multiple personas. I've been labeled schizophrenia, bipolar, Asperger, high-functioning autism, savant, you name it. Because on one hand, you had this surrealistic, epic sort of eccentricity in my humor. And on the other hand, you have a guy who's writing, composing, arranging, transcribing, and transposing this music into sheet music and presenting it to the public and my fans. And then I have this West Indian account where I was ranting. And then I had an academic account. So a lot of my fans were familiar with the multiple accounts. So I was kind of known as not just Mr. Pregnant. I was known as, again, this high level of ambiguity. Who is this guy? Who is he really? So
I guess, I guess that...
Sorry, go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
I guess that just kind of enhanced the mystery of who you are, the ambiguity.
Right. Yeah. And it's not something I do purposely. It is just, I am what I am, and I engage what I do with a high level of conviction, right? And however it is interpreted beyond that point, I mean, it's all subjective. It's really not an objective. Like you saw the article in the Vice.
Oh yes, recently I saw this article in Vice.
Right, it's a beautiful article, but it's a subjective interpretation. It's not a real overall objective interpretation of who I am. What the journalist did is it's just a tiny subset of who I am that he presented to the public based on his perspective, which I think was a beautiful article, by the way.
And I think it will reach a lot of people, maybe encourage them to look and try to figure out who you are. Look into this character. I've often wondered about this because I know now you have these internet, YouTube sensations. These guys that just play video games and comment over the video games, and these guys are making $5 million a year to $10 million a year. And able to completely, their career now is to be a YouTube commentator, YouTube performer, entertainer. So do you think if you would have continued, well, I mean, I guess you still are posting videos. Do you think you could have had a viable career being Mr. Pregnant?
It's not a career I would have been happy with, regardless of if I had the opportunity or not. That just seems counterproductive. We know that, it is pervasively known that there's a strong correlation between comedy and depression. And to have a successful career in a character just seems counterproductive. I think that is a psychological injustice to who I am as an individual. I would prefer present a character and transcend and show what I am capable of as an individual, rather than have a successful career being something that I am not.
Rather than just being pigeonholed into this one, I guess, personality or this one character. Which, I mean, a lot of people do, There are a lot of people who are just known for this one character. But I think, in the end, I think it would drive me insane. It's like if everybody wanted me to perform, do this dance, utter my catchphrase. It's like, you know what? There's a little bit more to me than this. But...
Indeed.
That's. I think that's the nature of the game. So what's coming up for Mr. Pregnant in the future here? Do you have any TV, any film, any voiceover work?
The sky's the limit. I haven't had any big opportunity. I mean, I've had a few. Actually, I'm lying. a number of networks, primarily MTV, featured one of my content on a show called Ridiculousness a couple weeks ago.
Nice. Did it increase your hits on your YouTube page?
Possibly. I haven't. Very seldom I go to my analytics to see how these publicity affect viewership, but I'm pretty certain it does.
Yeah, I imagine it does.
The irony is, some of these online users get 10, 20 times more than a lot of these view that these major networks have. Honestly.
So, just in terms of what I could promote here, I could promote your site, MrPregnant.com, right? People can go there, and it links to your YouTube page, right?
Yeah. Every facet of what I do is on MrPregnant.com.
So people go check out MrPregnant.com. Did you have any big plans here for the 4th of July? It's a holiday weekend.
No, I'm going to work. I work 24 hours a day. I don't celebrate any holidays. I would like to have a show, an event, someplace I could go to and make people laugh for the 4th of July. That would be my serenity, if you ask me.
No, I'm sure there's, in this city, it seems like there's like 3 open mics going on every day. It's Mr. Pregnant. It's been great to have you on the show, and I'll definitely have you back sometime in the future.
Yes, and I'd like to say that the opportunity is an appreciation that defies description, and I hope I exceeded your expectations.
You certainly did. All right. Have a good weekend, man. Thanks for being on the show.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hey, sick and wrong listeners. This is Trucker Paul. I got to tell you about this wonderful porno place where you can buy jack-off machines, dildos, inflatable wives. I've bought them all. When I go home, I like to diddle my wife with a little dildo. When I'm on the road, I got my second wife, my blow-up doll, and my jack-off sleeve. Go to adamandeve.com. Type in the word diddle, DIDDLE, and you'll get 50% off.